Hey guys, welcome back. Sean here. Today I will be discussing probably my favorite all-around carving knife to carry uh, just on my belt. I don't always like to carry around the small carving knives I have, like my flex cuts or my mora carving knives, because they're not quite as useful. So I like to have something that doubles up. So at least with this knife, I have something that will serve me well in an emergency if I do need to be a little harder on a knife. This is the BS3FTS by BPS Knives. Again, BPS is a Ukrainian company. They are, I would consider them a budget, but not a bad budget brand. Their knives range between $19 to, I think their most expensive is $54 Canadian, and that's for one that includes like a ferro rod in the sheath. So as far as price, some of them are a little more expensive than your Mora counterparts, but overall, I find you're getting a more robust blade than what Mora would offer for around the same price. So this, I'm guessing, is competing with the Mora Companion, although it's kind of like a companion mixed with a Garberg because it's got the full tang on it, 1066 high carbon steel. Uh, but if you look at it compared to, got my Mora Companion HD here, the blade shape is oh so similar to the Companion. There's a few little differences, like the blade base doesn't go all the way into the handle like on the Mora. The tip I find is has a less steep grind, so it makes it a little finer at the tip. I don't know if you could see if I can get it to focus for you. But yeah, the tip on the Mora has a steeper grind there. I think they made towards it just to make it stronger at the tip. I think that's why they do it. Uh, Although I think this one, although has a little more strength for carving, will probably make it a little weaker. I did see a couple reviews on Amazon where people said they had broken the tip off this knife. I'm willing to bet they probably had a knife with a bad heat treatment because or they're just abusing the knife because I've been very hard on the tip of this knife. Not this one specifically. The one I carry mostly is this one. I took the handles off just to show you. This one I probably have uh, maybe a total of 10 hours carving on it. And as you can see, I haven't had to sharpen it yet. I strop it every once in a while to bring it back up to snuff. But sorry about the focus, guys. Uh, yeah, so all I've done to this right now is strop it. I haven't had to rebuild the edge totally. They come with walnut handles, and obviously absolutely no weight saving. So if you found this a little heavy, I'm sure if you got creative, you could drill out some weight saving holes on here and even make like a little, if you wanted to drill out a bit on here, you could easily put a little storage container to put some fire starter material in there and some other survival things. But I'm not sure if this is hardened like the rest of the steel on the blade. If they only hardened the blade or they hardened the handle too. If they hardened the whole thing, good freaking luck drilling through that because they're their heat treat. I think it's 59 to 61 Rockwell, so you're not gonna be drilling through that very easily. Uh, Anyways, back to the comparison between the Mora and the BPS. So the handles on the Moras are just slightly longer if you look maybe like a couple centimeters. So overall length on the, where's my measuring tape? I mean, I can use this guide on my mat here. So overall length, we're looking at 21.5 centimeters or 8.5 inches. Blade thickness is, I think, 3. It says 3.2, but I'm getting, yeah, 3.2. That sounds about right. Blade length from usable cutting area to tip is 10. So let's say 10 centimeters and a couple 102 millimeters. Let's just say, or 10.2 centimeters, which again makes it very, like, the mora will have a little bit longer of a usable blade length because the blade goes all the way to the handle here, but it's very, very close. A lot of people might say it's a mora copy, but in my opinion, you can't really just say these are copies of blades because a simple design like a knife shape, it's so hard to create knives with a specific uh, use in mind without like taking from other companies or other examples, unless you're going to start from scratch. But that's not how our species works. We build on previous people's work, like most things. So I saw a couple reviews, people criticizing this company for ripping off Mora's design, and I do say it's very similar, but you can't. I don't find this a copy because it's total different materials. If you wanted a full tang mora, all they have is the Garberg, and personally, I don't like the shape of the Garberg. I mean, I haven't had too much time to use one. I held one in my hand really quickly at a store once, but I find the companion blade shape is my favorite for just having the versatility. It's shorter than your than a Garberg, so you get it's a little easier to get into details. I don't carve with this one very often. If I'm going to carve, I'm going to use my standard Mora companion because it's a little thinner of a blade. It slices a little better. So this is the one I use for carving if I do want to bring a carving Mora with me. Uh, but yeah, back to the criticism about it being a copy. I don't think it's a copy. It definitely takes cues from the Mora companion as far as the blade shape goes, but if you want a companion with a full tang, Mora doesn't offer that. If you want a companion with wood scales, Mora doesn't offer that. If you want a leather sheath, you can get one, but you have to spend extra if you want a Mora with a leather sheath. I tend to prefer traditional materials and simple put together knives, especially something like this where the handle is not riveted to the blades. So if you wanted to just get creative one day and take these scales off, get some micarta or some other wood, trace the scales out, it's very, very easy to put a new handle on this or experiment with putting on a new handle without necessarily having to commit to rehandling. Because I have, not on this one, but on another BPS knife I have taken the handles off and made my own scales and realized that I didn't like the scales as much as the factory ones. So I put the original handles back on, and if it was riveted, I would have had to totally drill out those rivets and and then rivet it back on afterwards, which would have made it uh, unnecessarily harder than just unscrewing a couple hex screws. And I do believe uh, the screws on here are a hex 2.2.5, 2.5 size hex. That's at least the first one I tried, and it seemed to fit good. So yeah, that's and on a Mora, you can change a handle. on a Mora companion or companion HD, but that involves destruction. You have to either cut the handle or you can freeze it and crack it. There are a few ways to get these handles off, but because Mora builds these to last, it's not exactly that easy to get a Mora handle off. And so yeah, if you wanted wood handles on a companion, you gotta pretty much destroy a companion to do it. So that's why I really like these kind of traditional style knives where they have scales that are screwed on, and then you can kind of fix it as it goes. If the scales swell, it just makes it a lot easier to do modifications and maintenance and little tweaks to it. All right, so back to the knife. It comes with a very nice wet formed leather sheath. Retention is great. Doesn't come out. You could probably net carry this upside down if you want, and unless you're jumping off a cliff and landing very hard, that's not gonna pop out. Again, I wouldn't carry it like that because these knives are scary sharp, and I would not want a knife to fall out and go in my belly. If I net carry something, I'm always gonna either add some real retention to it with a clip or something, or just make sure that it's not going to come out by itself. As far as the weight, yeah, let me get the weight on this. Make a little room here. So this, again, being full tang, absolutely no speed holes drilled in there to save weight. So it's going to be a chonky boy. But all in all, it's not too bad. 173 grams with the sheath. And you're looking at bare knife, 132 grams. So yeah, most of the weight is coming from the knife there. If you built a Kydex sheath, 41 grams, you might be able to save a bit of weight. But yeah, that sheath is pretty light already, actually. I don't know if you're going to get much lighter than that. So back to the comparison between this bad boy and then the original companion and the companion heavy duty. So I like this as like a halfway in between. Like, even though the blade is just as thick as the companion, I'm not sure if they're the exact same. I know the BPS is 3.2. I don't have the mora specs offhand, but for some reason, this one, although it's just as thick, it feels more nimble when you carve with it. And I'm guessing that has something to do with the tip of it, because I do a lot of tip carving. Let me just see if I can grab my stick here. So like when I'm trying to get fine details, I put my thumb there. And yeah, when I do the tip carving, because it has a more gradual slant to the tip, where the point, I find I get a lot more usable of a tip than my Mora HD. Like this one, I have to really angle it to get in on that thin part. Hopefully I'm getting this on camera. But with the BPS, I have a good probably 2 centimeters more usable area to the tip. And when you're talking carving details, that 2 centimeters can act like a lot. Like if you think of carving knives, your flex cuts and your intricate detail carving knives, the actual blade length is pretty small, because they want you to be able to have a nimble knife. So I really like what they did with the tip here, and judging by the couple reviews I saw, it might be to the detriment of the knife if you use this knife very, very hard. Like if you're scooping out a divot or a hole in wood, like if you're trying to do the the divot turns like that, you might end up breaking the tip. I have no clue. I'm kind of a little interested to do maybe a destructive test with one of these. I have 3 of them, but I like them so much that I don't necessarily think I want to try and break the knife. But if I get enough views on these videos and see enough interest, I might do that to one of these knives to see if, because they have a thinner tip to this, if that'll affect its strength, which obviously it will, but I don't know if that's going to be a big deal. Like, I guess that's up to you to think. Would you rather have a strong tip or a nimble tip? So, but as far as carving for me, between these 3 knives, I would probably take this one all the time, because I could depend on this one for a myriad of other situations, like prying and batoning, if you wanted to do that, because of the full tang. I'm not saying these are going to break doing that, because mora knives are very strong, but they're still not full tang. So if the knife is going to break, it's going to break down at the inside the handle there. So yeah, probably my favorite out of these 3 for actually carving. Let's get a little bit of a cut test here to see how it feather sticks. This is the new one. I have never cut this, so this has a factory edge. I mean, I can grab a piece of paper. Let's just give me 1 second here. Alright, so here's a little piece of paper so you can kind of see what the factory edge is like. I hate to say it, but this is probably one of the worst factory edges I've gotten from BPS. They're usually very, very, very sharp. This one's sharp. Like, I'm sure this will shave me, but feels like there is a chewy spot right in the middle of the blade. Yeah, somewhere around there. Anyways, I'll strop that to get that out of there. But yeah, BPS, they don't mess around with their factory grinds. This is a 0 degree Scandi, no micro bevel on these. If you can see, I'm trying to get, this one doesn't have that much of a, I guess you call it a Scandivex, but the way they finish them, I find they end up with just a slight convex. This one is not nearly as noticeable. Maybe different guy finished this, but I find usually they are slightly convex. You can see it right near, this is my older one again. Yeah, it's you can see a little bit of distortion there, but they do come with a slight Scandivex on them, which makes them very strong as far as the edge geometry goes. I prefer a Scandivex to a straight Scandi with a micro bevel, because it's easier to strop, to sharpen, and when you're doing a sharpening on a stone, you don't have to be as accurate. You can kind of let your hand rock a little bit, and it doesn't affect the edge of the blade. So yeah, most of my blades end up being convex or Scandivex, either through intentional means, I try to do it, or unintentional means where I just sharpen sloppy and they end up slightly rounded. Either way, I prefer those. So that's another reason why I prefer these BPS blades to a Mora Companion HD. I mostly carry this blade. Well, this specific one that I have the scales off, this carries in I have it attached to my Scrama, because, again, a Scrama is not good at detail work, and I don't want to bring a knife into the woods that I'm not 100% confident in, so I always like full tang, so this way I can have something that can harvest the wood, cut down a few trees, or baton through a couple trees, and then be able to carve the wood or do some fine work with this. Uh, Maybe in the next couple weeks, I'm going to try putting some custom scales on this one just to see if I can make some for them. I really like what's that? Micarta. I've been kind of messing around with when you layer felt and 2-part resin, and you get those really cool. I think that's micarta. It's called. Anyways, I was thinking about doing some custom micarta, but I really got to work on mixing that 2-part epoxy better, because the last time I did it, I probably used about $10 of epoxy, and I just didn't understand why it never fully cured. I don't know if that's the nature of the epoxy I got, but it always kind of felt rubbery, even 6 months down the line. I think it was the last time I tried to make it. It still felt soft. Maybe that's supposed to feel soft. I don't know, but I didn't like that too much. If I could dig my fingernail into the scale, I know I'm gonna beat the crap out of it. All right, back to the knife. Overall, I probably I'm not gonna give this a numerical value. I don't know if I want to give numerical values, but this is a pass for me. This is a definite buy. If you're into the shape of the companion, the blade shape, the handle shape, it's as close as you can get to a companion, but without having to have uh, plastic and partial tangs. You can easily make this almost identical to a companion with a little work, uh, which is another reason why I say this isn't a copy, because there are so many slight differences. The length, the blade shape is obviously as close to as a companion as get, but the slight differences there, the slight differences between the upper bolsters, and then the slight difference in length. The more is more contoured, but this is more resilient. Like it doesn't have as much give in the hand. Like this has a little squish to it. This is 100% solid. And again, little sandpaper or Dremel time, you can make this identical to the companion. If you wanted a full tang, high carbon, traditional wood leather style knife, but in the companion shape, you could get this so close to the companion with a little time. Uh, I'd say I would always go for this, even though it's a little more expensive. This on Amazon Canada, I think the stainless steel one I got for $29. The high carbon companion HD I think was 36 Canadian. And then the companion non HD is I think 26 Canadian. So that's about 20 to 30 or 25 to $35 versus $39.99. But yeah, like again, if you wanted to get a full tank Mora, they're charging what, 100? I think it was $139, $49 for the carbon Garberg, which to me is just it's. I don't get why Mora does that. Why can't you release a full tank version of this and just charge you for the extra steel? Like it's not. You're literally the only difference is that extra steel that goes through. It's probably 10 cents in steel, and they're charging you what is the better part of $100 extra for the knife. I just don't get why they're limiting their market like that, because I really wanted a full tang companion or a full tang mora, but when I saw the prices I started looking at alternate companies like Condor. I almost got the Condor Pterosaur, which is a highly recommended knife, but I ended up going with BPS. It was a little cheaper, and I had already had one of their knives, so I knew that their steel was good, at least good enough for me. Uh, if you're a steel snob, you might look at 1066 and that's garbage. But to me, the steel is like a tenth of what actually matters. To the heat treatment and the grind geometry is how a knife is stays strong to me. Uh, you can do so much with proper heat treatment and proper grind geometry with those older high carbon steels like '01 and 1095. They're still so good. Don't get me wrong, I love stainless steels. They have their place, but I live in Ontario, Canada. We don't really have high humidity here. I can have carbon knives sitting in my house years unoiled and nothing happens to them. So the stainless properties aren't exactly that important to me. So uh, yeah, 1066 is a okay as long as they know what they're doing. I'm sure if you got a bad heat treat with this, it would feel very bad. But whatever BPS is doing with their 1066, they clearly have been working with it for a while and know how to do it right. Sorry, I'm just trying to get some up close shots here. But my phone's not being agreeable. Maybe you could see just a slight. If you look at the bottom where the light's shining off, you can see just a slight curve to it. That's where you start to see the convex closer to the bottom of the blade. That's where this one does have a bit of a convex. It's really hard to show up on camera, but I can tell whoever's doing their finishing work at BPS has certainly got some skill on him, because very rarely, I think I have about 12 or 13 of their knives, and I think only on one knife I had a grind that was slightly uneven at the tip, right? Like the tip, like one side was just a little shallower than the other, and I contacted them and they sent me a new knife, let me keep the old one. So yeah, I pretty much got a free knife there. Yeah, as far as what they're doing with the tools they have, it's awesome. So, well, we're going on about half an hour here, rambling on about knives, probably not even saying anything very substantial, but that's okay. As long as you know that BPS is not junk. I've seen so many people refer to any knife under $50 as you get what you pay for, that's junk, or just go buy a mora. Like they automatically assume because you're in a specific price range and it's not already tested that it's going to be garbage. These are not. These guys know what they're doing. They should definitely be supported. So if you have a chance, have a bit of extra money, I recommend buying 3 or 4 of them and just justify it in your brain. Say, I spent 150 on one other knife, so buy 3 or 4 and get a good feel for them. Different models. I'd recommend the BS3FTS, the HK1, as well as the BS1FTS, I think it's called. Or no, the BS2FTS. It's a full tang Ontario, like Kephart style knife. Uh, yes, those three. I'd start with that. If I get a chance, I'll put some links in the description to show you which ones I'm talking about. If they're not in stock, wait a little while. I'm sure they'll be back in stock. If you want to know when they're back in stock, just contact BPS and tell them you want to get them that specific knife. And if you're going for Amazon, I guarantee they'll tell you exactly when Amazon's going to be getting more. So yeah, BS BFS no, BS3FTS by BPS. It gets a big old thumbs up by me, and I hope that more people can pick these knives up and they get a proper name for themselves. Maybe eventually they will have enough money to upgrade their stainless steel to something that's not 5CR MOV. And then maybe they'll put 1095 in these. Maybe if we can talk to them, but I'm not going to complain. They're doing great stuff with this 1066. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to me for half an hour about a knife that I really like. And let me know if you have any questions. I'll be doing another review on probably either another BPS knife, probably the HK1, or my Joker Campero in Bowler K720, which I'm kind of excited to mess around with. It's like O2 tool steel. I think that's what it's very similar to O2 tool steel, but it's hardened. Joker hardens it up to 65 HRC, and when you ping that knife on some metal, you can hear the hardness of it. So I'm kind of interested to put some time into it and see if hardening that that steel up to that is going to cause trouble with chipping or anything like that. Here, let me just do a quick feather stick with this, just so I have it on the video. Let's start somewhere else. Let's do a new start. Oh, again, just like the BS1 I did the other day, because it has that slight convex, you can really control your feathers. Oh, this wood sucks. But this knife is thicker than the knife I was using the other day, so it's gonna bite a little deeper. Oh, that wood does not smell good. But yeah, obviously it feathers. It's a Scandi grind. All right, guys. Sean signing off. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.